Imagine this: no money, no degree, no real skills on paper. Also, adapted, dropped out, and pretty much starting from zero. Yet somehow, he built the first $1 trillion company out of bankruptcy. Not with luck, but with insane imagination, sharp instincts, and crystal clear vision. He wasn't a coder, he wasn't a manager, he was something bigger. That's radical innovator, Steve Jobs.
You've got to be willing to.
That's what a lot of customers pay us.
Executives are leaving the product line.
But hold up, we are not doing something boring biography today. This episode for you, the dreamer, struggler, the future entrepreneur who's flat, broke and feeling stuck. So what was the Steve Jobs secret sauce and how you can use same thinking pattern, turn your setback into comeback? Okay, let's break it all down step by step. Let's go. So let's talk about something most people totally overlook when it comes to business genius.
Strategic partnerships. Yep, not just what you build, but who you shake hands with. When Steve Jobs came back to Apple in 1997, the company was circling the drain, like literally 90 days from running out of cash. That's not a metaphor, that's real. And what did Jobs do? He shocked everyone. He partnered with Microsoft, Apple's biggest rival. You could almost hear a pin drop when he announced it at Macworld. People booed. Some even said it was betrayal. I mean, this was Microsoft, the company people believed ripped off the Mac to make Windows. But Steve, he didn't flinch.
So why this deal was pure genius? Let me break down what this bold move really did. Microsoft invested $150 million into Apple instant lifeline. At that point, Apple was basically living paycheck to paycheck. And they agreed to keep Microsoft Office for Mac, which means business users didn't jump ship. Next, a license deal. This helped to keep both companies out of expensive legal wars. And yeah, another main thing. Internet Explorer became the default browser on Mac computers. See, Steve Jobs wasn't playing checkers. He's playing chess. And this wasn't about ego. This is survival. Your time is limited, so don't waste it living someone else's life. He didn't follow the rules. He made decisions that made sense, not just ones that looked good on paper. And that's what you gotta remember too. Whether you are building business, launching a side hustle, or just trying to turn your life around, you'd never expect. Sometimes your biggest win comes from the place you'd never expect. When Steve Jobs walked back into Apple 1997, how was that? Can you imagine? It's totally zoo actually. There were Macs, PowerBooks, printers, scanners, PDFs, all with weird names and all having features. And special thing is there's no clear identity.
Even worse, internal teams were competing against each other, building products that confused customers instead of helping them.
It was completely like a tech company trying to be a supermarket. And trust me, nobody was buying. Of course, Jobs saw the process, but he didn't waste a second. Here we go. The first thing he did, you can't believe this anymore. He cut 70% of Apple product line. Just boom. And then he grabbed a whiteboard and drew a simple 2x2 grid. For what? Can you imagine? Why is this? 2 columns, consumer and professional. 2 rows, desktop and laptop. And that grid became the new DNA for Apple. Consumer, professional, desktop, laptop, iMac, PowerBook, iBook, PowerBook. That's simple, right? That's quite simple. You can see this kind of simplicity Steve Jobs used at that time for Apple company future. And believe me, focus on totally 4 products really did for them. Believe me, 4 products, no fluff, no distraction.
What he killed. Gone were 12-plus models of clunky Macs, Apple-branded printers and scanners, the Newton PDA, licensing deals that let other companies clone Apple hardware, useless accessories, and forgettable side projects. That move alone didn't just clear the shelves, it freed up brainpower, budgets, and belief. What he kept and rebuilt. Jobs doubled down on the iMac, which launched in 1998 and was a massive success. The Power Mac, PowerBook, and later the iBook. A design philosophy built around simplicity, beauty, and performance. And suddenly, Apple made sense again. No more guessing what to buy. No more wondering what product actually did what. Just 4 strong tools, each with a purpose. Why this was a game changer? Cost efficiency. Cut R&D, marketing waste, and inventory. Clear vision. Made innovation easier and faster. Customer loyalty. Simplified buying equals happier customers. Faster innovation. Teams focused on quality, not quantity. And here's the kicker. Deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That's not just advice for tech. That's a life lesson.
Quick recap, Jobs cut 70% of Apple's products in one ball sweep. He replaced chaos with laser focus. That single decision laid the foundation for everything. iMac, iPod, iPhone, iPad. And eventually Apple turned into a first trillion-dollar company on this planet. Financial discipline, the most important fact that you know. So now product line was clean totally. Apple finally focused, no doubt at all. But focus alone doesn't pay the bill. That's the main thing. This was a business that had only 90 days of money left. When Steve Jobs returned in 1997, they were losing over $1 billion. Over $1 billion per year. And even the Microsoft deal, Apple needed more than financial aid. They need discipline, and Jobs delivered it fast and very hard. Sometimes it's rudely, but it should be like this company right now.
Step 1. Cut waste. Mercilessly. Jobs didn't just trim fat. He brought out the axe. Entire departments were shut down, useless projects were canceled, and marketing budgets slashed. If it didn't contribute to Apple's core vision, it was gone. He wasn't trying to please everyone. He was trying to save the company. And he said, "I'm as proud of what we don't do as I am of what we do." Step 2. Tighten the machine. But Jobs didn't do it alone. In 1998, he brought in a secret weapon, Tim Cook. Cook wasn't flashy, he wasn't loud, but he was brutally efficient. Here's what he did. Slashed manufacturing costs. Rebuilt Apple's supply chain into a just-in-time model. Cleared out warehouses and reduced stockpiles. Apple went from having months of inventory sitting around to just days. That's huge. It freed up millions in cash and made Apple lean, fast, and unstoppable. Step 3. Every dollar had a job. Jobs had this sixth sense for spotting waste. If a project was cool but useless to the customer, he'd kill it. If a feature didn't serve the experience, it didn't ship. The goal wasn't to spend more, it was to spend smarter. In just 12 months, Apple went from massive losses to a $309 million profit. That was Apple's first profitable year in 3 years. Let that sink in.
1 year. From the ICU to profitability.
Step 4. Profit before hype. Here's where the Jobs was different from other CEOs. When we compare with other CEOs, Steve Jobs kinda different person. Let me give some points to elaborate how it was. He didn't believe in growth at all costs. He believed in value first.
You've got to start with the customer experience and work back toward the technology, not the other way around.
And the same thing applied to the money. Build the right product, charge a premium for quality, make customers fall in love. That's Steve Jobs' perfect mindset. That's not a hype, that's kind of strategy.
Jobs' financial discipline in action. Action. Slashed wasteful spending. Millions saved instantly. Rebuilt operations with Cook. Faster supply chain, lean inventory. Focused every dollar. $309 million profit within 1 year. Prioritized value, not volume. Premium pricing plus long-term loyalty. And that's what separated Jobs from the pack. He wasn't just building a profitable company. He was building a company with discipline, direction, and purpose.
Eventually, Apple had money again, had focus, had discipline. So imagine what will be the next. So what truly turned Apple into a global powerhouse? This is the most important part in this video. It's innovation. We are talking real, disruptive, category-defining innovation. Steve Jobs didn't want to improve tech. He wanted to reinvent.
Shift to innovation-first culture. When Jobs returned, he rewired Apple's DNA. He said, forget adding more buttons. Forget chasing specs. Let's reimagine entire categories from scratch. He built a culture of design-first thinking, cross-functional teamwork, and radical simplicity. At Apple, engineers sat next to designers, who sat next to marketers. No silos, just one shared obsession, the user experience. That culture, it made magic possible. The iMac 1998, the first bold move. Apple's comeback needed a product that shouted confidence. And it got one, the iMac. It was all-in-one, colorful, transparent design. No floppy drive, bold at the time, plug-and-play internet, zero screws visible. It was fun. It was futuristic. It didn't look like a beige office box. In just 5 months, Apple sold over 800,000 units. It didn't just save the company, it made computers cool again.
Yeah, power cross-functional teams. Here's what most companies get wrong. They separate creative terms from technical ones. Not Jobs. He formed tight, cross-functional teams that worked like a startup inside the Apple. Designers, engineers, marketers, all in one room. All focused on a single question. The iBook. The first Wi-Fi laptop. The iPod. 1,000 songs in your pocket. iTunes. Hardware, software, store, all connected. It wasn't just about tech. It was about ecosystem thinking. Simplicity became a religion. Jobs believed the best design is invisible.
Design is not just what it looks like and feels like. Design is how it works. Apple became famous for minimalist interfaces, sleek, intuitive hardware, and removing friction at every touchpoint. From the first click to the last swipe, it just worked.
That wasn't luck. That was laser focus innovation. Next point is culture of excellence.
Steve Jobs wasn't just obsessed with innovation, he was maniacal about perfection. If something was off by a pixel, he'd tear it down and start over.
Set insanely high standard.
Set insanely high standards. Be a yardstick of quality. Some people aren't used to an environment where excellence is expected.
Jobs didn't settle for good. He wanted insanely great. His teams were pushed, sometimes brutally, to deliver game-changing results. In 2006, when the iPhone team thought they nailed it, Jobs rejected it again and again until it felt perfect in the hand.
This is really important fact when we talk about Steve Jobs. A small team mentality. Jobs didn't believe about big bloated teams. He wanted A+ players only. Small groups that move fast. Constructive conflict was encouraged.
Steve could be brutal. This is shit. That wasn't rare, but it wasn't bullying. It was fuel. He wanted people to fight back with better ideas.
Jobs believed that real excellence came from tension, pressure cooking creativity until diamond form. Product first, profit second.
Revenue was never the North Star. Great products were. Steve believed the money would follow, if the product was exceptional. We don't ship junk.
Mission-driven culture. Apple wasn't an entire workplace. It was a mission.
Apple wasn't a workplace. It was a mission. Jobs convinced his teams they weren't building tech. They were changing the world.
We are building tools for the mind and the future. We don't get a chance to do that many things. And everyone should be excellent because this is our life. Next one. Rebuilding the brand. People don't buy what you do. They buy why you do it. When Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, the company was on life support. Morale was low, stock was crashing, competitors were laughing. It's insane, right? But Jobs just didn't build the company. He rebuilt it, its soul. Now it's time to talk about that. He redefined Apple identity. Jobs knew something more CEOs forget. You are not selling products, you are selling belief. He crafted all Apple brand around user-centric design, innovation, creativity and simplicity and thinking differently. He didn't care if Apple was the biggest. He wanted it to be the most meaningful. The Thinking Different campaign. This wasn't an advertisement. You may heard this one. It's kinda revolution. Here's the crazy part. That line reintroduced that Apple not a just tech company, but as a movement for rebels, misfits and creatives. The whole campaign features legends like Albert Einstein, Gandhi, Picasso, not computers. There were no product in the ad. That's Steve Jobs' mindset. That's how think about these things, right? Just a belief system and work it. Whole world listened it. That's the power of this kind of a system. Okay, if you are stuck right now, if you are wondering how to fix your small business or how to get your life back on a track or even how the next 5 years of your life could look. Okay, alright, stop crawling. This right here is the lesson you needed. Because what you just heard is not all just about tech company. It was the story of a comeback. I think your comeback story might just start from today, right? So until next time, go and change your world. Your host from Money Monkey.